Hey, welcome back everyone. You're watching Centerline Designs. My name's Cole if you're new to the channel, and we're gonna go get back working on that Snowcat project again. So if you've seen the last video, we made some custom dies to stamp out some metal parts that are gonna build the tracks for our Snowcat. And today we need to make another set of dies to stamp out some more parts. Here you go, buns. All right, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's okay, just keep watching. We're gonna head in the shop here and do a little more explaining. Hey, look at that. All right, well, if you're completely new to this, this is our all aluminum amphibious tracked vehicle, which I call a Snowcat. It's mainly a winter use vehicle. We have a Volkswagen turbo diesel in there that's powering some hydraulic piston pumps that are gonna drive big wheel motors and sprockets that turn the tracks over the tires. All right, well, in the last video, we went ahead and we made these laminated dies. Worked out really good. We put them in our 20-ton mechanical press brake, and we took a piece of straight 1-inch mild steel square tubing and stamped our grouser profile into it. So these grousers are made up of multiple pieces. The next thing we're gonna have to do is go ahead and make the wheel guide. It's gonna be about a 1/2-inch round bar. We're gonna stamp that out. The only thing I haven't figured out is if I wanna make these wheel guides out of one single piece of 1/2-inch mild steel, or I want to cut them in half and just stamp out 1/2 of the profile, and then you can just flip it over and it's the mirror image, so install it on the other side and then we'll weld them on. I don't know yet. I'm gonna have to do some figuring, bring you along for the ride, and let's go ahead and see what we can do. I don't exactly know what these are gonna look like, so we're gonna do some cardboard aided design and draw some profiles, cut it out, match it on the tire, and let's see what we like. Sometimes you just have to do some figuring and play around till you figure out what you want. Back doing arts and crafts. Okay, let's go ahead, take a look at this. I know it's pretty crude, but sometimes it does the job. I'm pretty happy with that. I did want the wheel guides to widen out on the tires. Reason being that if we lower these tire inflations, it's gonna get a little smaller and fatter, and opening up these wheel guides out here is gonna allow that to happen. And then the wheel guide's gonna come back up, and what we're gonna have to do here is I wanted a backing plate on the rubber anyways. We're gonna have to go ahead and weld the backing plate to this piece of round bar, leaving the appropriate gap for the belting to slide in, and then it will through bolt. Ideally, my grousers would have been wide enough that the wheel guide could have come back up and then the belting bolt on the outside, but I really wanted to keep the width of this vehicle down, and it's all based around the engine. The width of the inside frame is based on the engine to get it really low, to have the center of gravity low. And the tracks, I was shooting for about an 18 to 20-inch track, which is about right where we are, because I didn't want this machine to be so wide that I can't go down any trails. All right, since I have a bit of a starting point here, what I'm gonna go do is get this into the computer. We need to mock up this shape in Fusion, send it over to the CNC table, and then we need to cut out some more laminations in that 1/4-inch plate. So let's go ahead. We'll get over to the computer, do some design work. All right, well, I went ahead, did the design for the wheel guide dies in the house. Table's all set up. We're gonna get over there and cut out the dies. It's only gonna be 2 laminations. I did decide to go ahead and make this wheel guide out of 2 pieces, 2 mirrored pieces. The reason being is the V on this side, the arc, and the V on this side is gonna require the round bar to be pulled in multiple directions as it's being bent. So it's either gonna stretch the metal or have to pull it around my dies as it's stamping. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but by going ahead and just doing one bit of an arc and a V, it can pull in from both sides and get stamped without having to stretch the material as much. I think. Anyways, it's just what my brain was seeing. I think it's gonna be just as easy to stamp it out of 2 pieces. A little joint in the bottom isn't gonna matter at all. So let's head over to the plasma table. Really not too bad at cuts. I know my air system for the plasma cutter isn't clean air, it's wet. I don't have any kind of air dryer in the system or anything like that yet. So I do accept a little bit more dross than I have to. Once I upgrade that system, we'll get even cleaner cuts with less dross. So anyways, one thing at a time, right? Can't buy everything. All right, time to knock some of this slag off and laminate them up. Should work out just like last time, is my hope. If you saw the last video, you know the drill, and if you haven't, then keep watching. Let's put this together. Okay, with both those bolted together, we need to go ahead and just clean up the edges, make sure the bottom and the tops are squared off, take any burrs. So we'll just do a little cleanup with the angle grinder and get the base mounted to another piece of angle. Then we can do some testing. So method's working. With all that grinding done, We're just about ready to set them up in the press, weld down that bottom die, cut a round bar, and test it out. And I think it's gonna work out pretty good. I do have a spoiler for you though in this video, and it's related to that green machine right there. Let's go take a look. Okay, well, what's so cool about this machine? It's a single and double pulse MIG welder. And this is all new to me. I just picked this thing up a couple of weeks ago. I really want to do a video on it because it's very sophisticated. There are a lot of settings you can play with. You adjust the amperage, which essentially is the wire speed, but amperage is a more accurate way of doing it, and it's the way the bigger, more industrial machines do. You can play with your inductance, you can play with the voltage setback, you can put it in single pulse, you can use short circuit transfer like most MIGs are. Single pulse goes into a spray transfer, so the wire doesn't hit the base metal like short circuit, but it actually burns off a certain distance away, and the arc carries a little ball of metal over to the puddle. It's really neat, it sounds totally different. And then there's a double pulse. And what that's doing is taking that rapid pulsing in your pulse spray transfer and pulsing it a couple of times a second up and down so that it limits even more how much heat goes into the metal, so you can MIG weld a bit thinner metals and stuff like that. And it also, as some people like the stack of dimes look, it really pulses and stacks up your bead to apparently make it a little fancier. But the big part is that it puts less heat in with creating a really good weld. This machine specifically is set up for a push-pull gun, which is something I'd like to get, but the push-pull gun alone is $2,000 Canadian, which is a cheap push-pull gun, but that will let me feed wire from the machine, and then the gun has synchronized drive rollers that pulls it as well. That's why it's called a push-pull, and that will allow me to wire feed aluminum in almost all sizes, and it's a really nice setup. This machine alone though, what I did is buy a second gun, change the liner to Teflon, it's hanging up on the shelf, and I can wire feed aluminum in single pulse, the spray transfer, and I'm still learning to dial it in, but it's coming along really nicely. So yeah, little teaser for you. There's gonna be a really nice video coming up on this. So yeah, anyways, I'm gonna leave that there. There's a lot more I wanna talk about this machine, but I'm gonna leave it for its own video. That's gonna be coming up in the future once I dial things in a little more, because I'm really still just playing and learning with it myself. But we're gonna get to bust it out here when we do a little welding on these dies. So it's really neat, it's a cool machine. And if you're into that kind of thing, you'll probably like the video. But anyways, back to the dies. This is gonna go in there somewhere like that. Okay, we'll just lower this thing down a little bit. Okay, that should be about the bottom. Pretty close. Now let's finish it. I should just have to flush up the end. All right, well, I am fairly confident that's where I want it. Really critical is that it's straight, because the lower die is still adjustable and we'll have to set that up every time we put this together, but that's all right. So now I'm gonna go ahead and weld the bottom die to this angle, using our brand new MIG welder. Let's see if I have the settings right. All right, well, I'm very much playing around with those pulse settings, and weld's not bad, but I'm having a little problem with puddle control. So There's, I flipped over to short circuit MIG, and I'll show you that difference in the sound. All right, well, we just got these pieces of round bar cut up. They're probably gonna be sacrificial unless they work and I'll use them. But what we need to determine is a couple of things. We need to figure out where we need to place this to wind up getting an end stop. I cut these to 10.5 inches because I measured the curve and everything like that, and that's approximately how long I think they need to be. Now, when we stamp these, they need to pull in from both directions to stamp down there. So I need to make a few test bends to determine where we set this, and then we'll put an end stop on it so we make it repeatable in every one. And the second thing is, this press doesn't have the stroke to do it all in one shot. So what we're gonna have to do is stamp partly, do a bunch of them or run the whole batch, and then adjust this down lower, put them back in, and stamp them a second time to final size. So we'll do that for a few test parts here, but it's ultimately gonna be a two-step process, but again, is what it is, right? We'll make it work. So my goal here is, I'll say do one flush, and it's probably gonna pull it in, so it'll pull it back. I just don't know how much, and the amount it pulls it back is the amount of reveal we'll give to that side. Put a little end stop on, maybe we'll even make it adjustable. And then this end is the end that I plan to leave long and likely cut to make it perfect, because we're gonna weld the backing plates to this and then through bolt the backing plate, the belting, and the square tubing. I know there's a lot going on here, and I think I may have made it more complicated than I have to, but that's all right. I like doing that. All right. Let's set up the first one and stamp it. Okay, here goes stamping wheel guides for the track vehicle. Clearly gonna have to make some better keepers there, but here goes stamp number 2. There you go. Well, I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, other than having to take 2 stamps to do it, it worked really well. Clearly, I need to stick out to the left a lot more. That's bang on 1 inch. So I think maybe I'll do 7/8 stick out, because I don't mind if there's a tiny gap between the 2 pieces on the left and the right. I'd probably just get welded. But if it's too long, then obviously they interfere with each other. So let's throw that one away, and we'll set another one in there, 7/8 stick out. Okay, there's 7/8. Let's fire this up and give it a shot. Okay, we're up to speed on the press. Let's give it a shot. I'm gonna have to put a piece of bar across here. Okay, second stamp. Morning, girls. These are our two bunnies, Cashew and Acorn, and they've been building themselves a burrow for the winter. It goes about 5.5 feet back down there. They're enjoying the nice sun. Morning, Taco. Hey, morning, bud. All right, well, good morning. As you can tell, it's a new day for me. Cleanly shaven. I think we ended off yesterday stamping out those wheel guides, and I did enough to do a mock-up grouser, so let's go take a look at that. All right, well, this is pretty much what the completed grouser is gonna look like. There's our halfway point. These are mirror images of one another. They're gonna come down in there, get welded on in a few places. This is the wear patch that goes on the outside, and if this starts to wear down a little bit, we can just put some hard surfacing rod on it, and that will help out. Okay, so this being the bottom of the grouser, the belting is gonna go on the top side here, which means this doesn't weld to here like you would think it would. What we're gonna have to do, and I thought about trying to get the length accurate, but I just don't wanna have this wind up being too short. We're gonna weld this all on, and then we're gonna make a jig and come in, get a marker, and we're gonna wind up having to cut this right around here. And then there'll be a plate that gets welded on that. The plate will have a hole here and a hole here that lines up with the hole going through the grouser. And the belting is gonna slide in between the backing plate and the grouser, and then everything will bolt down nice and tight together. And yeah, it's definitely a complicated way of doing it. I think it's gonna work out really well. It's gonna accomplish all the flotation from that belting that I really want, and really tall wheel guides, and we're kind of combining everything together. So that really is a mocked up grouser. Let's go ahead and let's do some welding and cut these down, put a little plate in. Let's make almost a fully finished grouser and then go take a look at it on the vehicle. And I think we have our process dialed in, so yeah. That's really exciting to see it all come together. These have been plans in my head for years, And you know, things have changed over that time, but it's exciting to get it to a finished state or almost finished state. And I think I'm gonna leave this as a video on its own. I did talk about doing the dies to punch the belting holes as well in this video, but I think I'd rather leave that video here once we get this done, and then we'll go ahead and do the stamping dies in a separate video, sort of 3 dies, 3 videos, a little bit shorter in length, and that way I can get them all out to you. So anyways, enough talking, let's get some welding done, check this out, and yeah, see where we are. I think that's kind of set up. We're gonna go ahead and make a really nice jig for this once we get there, because we have 250 of these to make, which means 500 wheel guides. 500 of these, 250 of these, 500 backing plates. Yeah. There's a reason I procrastinated on this so long. I also think I figured out why that welder was, I wasn't getting it dialed in. I had the wrong wire size selected on it because I was flipping back and forth between aluminum and steel the other day, and I forgot to change a few settings. So hopefully we got that dialed in a bit better. Okay, let's go ahead, do some welding. Way better. Wow, that was night and day. You wouldn't think having 035 wire selected over the 030 I'm using would make that much difference in this machine, but in a spray transfer, the pulse settings like that, it's really critical. That little difference messes the welder up. Well, it doesn't mess it up, it just doesn't calculate everything correctly because it's running in a synergistic mode where it's always kind of adapting the parameters. Yeah, it's something else, but really nice. Let's go ahead and weld the other side. Or let's fix that, because that's not centered at all. There. Well, obviously my shimming math didn't work out, because that is not in the middle. Let's fix that. Let's just ditch the shims and send it by eye. of the cool things about the pulse spray transfer is there's no splatter. You don't need an anti-spatter spray. You don't need an anti-spatter spray. Blech. You don't need an anti-spatter spray. Boy, that was hard for me to get out. Yeah, really nice. All right, we'll go for 1/2 inch. That will give us enough play that it won't be frustrating to get in there. One of the last steps in the process here is we need to cut this round bar down to account for the thickness of the belting and our backing plates that are going to be welded to it. So the belting, I'm going to go for about 1/2 inch plus 1/8 inch for the backing plates. So we need to cut these down to 5/8 inch from the square tubing. So let's mark that out. So when it comes time to actually do the assembly process of all 250 grousers, I'll probably just make another jig for the dry cutoff saw and have it set and just use the cutoff to do that little notch. I think it's just gonna lead to a more accurate result by cutting to fit versus trying to bend, because there is some discrepancy that can happen in that bending. So. All right, there you have it. Aside for the holes drilled through the square tubing, which I would probably do in the step before we weld the wheel guides on, put it in the drilling machine there and knock those holes, but this is just really a prototype, a demo. But that's a grouser. Wow, there's a lot to that. I think it's gonna work really well. Let's go see what it looks like over on the wheel. Okay, there you go. That's a grouser. Yeah, pretty cool. I'm really happy with that. And I really like how that welder was working there. Once I got the settings right, it just lays down a bead like nothing. No splatter to clean up. A little bit of back and forth to get it the way we want, but I think that's gonna be perfect. Now we just need to make a few other jigs for the assembly process. And the next video is gonna be the dies to stamp out this bolt pattern in the belting. And it's really critical that the spacing between grousers is as close as I can get it accurately, because that is the links in the chain that the sprocket are gonna see as it rotates around. And the sprocket teeth are CNC, so those are gonna be really spot on. So the links in the track need to be really accurate as well. But I don't think that's gonna be a problem. I mean, we've gotten this far. I'm pretty sure we can make up a set of dies to do some belt punching in the press brake as well. That'll be pretty neat. But I'm gonna save that for next weekend. And I really do appreciate everyone watching these videos. It's really starting to take shape. I'm getting really excited. Keeps wanting me to do more and more. I really can't wait to get these tracks on. So something I've been thinking about here is taking these grousers and I'll run them up to the nearest city and I'll get them hot dip galvanized. That way the insides of the tubing's not gonna rust out. It'll all be completely coated. I really think it's the best option, although, you know, it's not gonna be cheap. So my question to you is, do you think I should just leave them bare steel for a winter? Should I throw some primer or paint on it? Now, I think that might affect its ability to get galvanized down the road, so I gotta be careful if we put anything on these. My thought is, as much as I don't want to build the tracks and then take them apart, I also got to spend money wisely, right? So I'm thinking I might just assemble the tracks, test it out this winter, and if I'm happy with how the overall vehicle performs, I'll probably go to the work, if you think it's worth it, and disassemble the tracks, send these off to a galvanizing company, and we'll get all the grousers galvanized. And then it's gonna look good for years to come. It's not gonna wind up rusting out because this little dip is gonna trap water and they'll wind up rusting out from the inside. So let me know if you think that's gonna be worth it. Maybe how much you guess it'll be. I have gotten stuff galvanized before and it's not terrible. It's definitely in the realm of possibility. So well, I'm gonna leave that there. Thank you everyone so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Progress is still moving forward. Next video, we'll go ahead and get all this belting punched out and then we're into assembly mode. So thanks so much. We'll see you in the next one. Cheers.